And away we go. Hi, everyone. It is episode 492. If my math is correct, that would be 8 away from 500. Chris Perkins, you will be officially invited to
Yes.
one of the guests
Yes.
episode 500. You've earned it, my man.
All right. My life is complete now.
Come on, that matters. And for the person who called me a juvenile child for doing that, how's that for juvenile child? Okay. It's the last weekend before the NFL draft. And Perk's the first time I've talked to you this week on the podcast, I should say. And this was the week where Chris Greer conducted his annual pre-draft conference, which wasn't really about the draft. I did the rundown. My math came up to 6 questions out of 37 actually were draft questions. And I had 2 of those, including whether he would rule out the possibility, regardless of circumstances, of taking a quarterback in round 1, because Adam Schefter had thrown out that possibility, and somebody else threw it out. Charles Robinson from Yahoo.com threw out as a possible wild card at number 13 for Shedeur Sanders, the Miami Dolphins. I don't believe it's going to happen. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's neither here nor there. Hi, Perker. How are you?
Hey, I am good, Poop. Mock drafts, my final mock draft comes out either Sunday or Monday. I got to turn it in tomorrow. Man, Poop, I'm trying to figure out things for the Dolphins. I was trying to figure out, could they go up to number 2 and get Travis Hunter? Could they go to number 5 and get Ashton Genty? But really, as spoiler alert, right now I have them staying at 13. I'm having a lot of problems figuring out first-round trades. There will be at least one. Yes. I'm thinking maybe Dallas trades up to number 5 to get Ashton Genty, to get ahead of Las Vegas at number 6. They trade with Jacksonville. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm doing good, Poop.
Does anybody? What was that? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris Perkins from the Southwest, right. Where you can find his always very insightful work, as evidence right here on SunCentral.com. I kid. The truth is, nobody knows. We make educated guesses based on the information we have, and that's all it is. And there'll be a wild card.
Yeah.
There could be somebody in the first round be like, who?
Hey, look, nobody saw Michael Penix last year at number 8, weeks after you signed Kirk Cousins to, $90 million guaranteed or whatever that deal was. So, yeah, there's going to be something, but I just have zero idea what it's going to be.
No, they always happen. What's probably not going to be, I saw that on national media outlet somewhere. Bold prediction, Dolphins trading Tyreek Hill for the number 4 overall pick to the New England Patriots. And I'm like, sure, the Patriots are going to do that. And by the way, when Chris Greer says, I'm not trading Tyreek, but if somebody calls with 2 first-round picks, then, by the way, it wouldn't take 2 first-round picks for Chris Greer to go like, let's meet. Right. So he's throwing that out there. First of all, nobody's getting 2 first-round picks, I think, anymore ever in the NFL or close to it, unless it's the Bills decided tomorrow they're going to trade Josh Allen or something like that. That doesn't happen. Right now, you're not getting one number 1 pick for Tyreek Hill, let alone the number 4 overall pick. I mean, let's get serious. And it's the same for Jalen Ramsey. You're not going to get value for him. And Perk, let's list all the reasons why teams are not going to give a great return for Jalen Ramsey.
Well, he's going to be 31 years old in October. He makes a whole lot of money. He's not a very agreeable person, right? He didn't get along with Vic Fangio. We don't know what the issue is here. To me, it seems more personal than business. So maybe this is a deal of he's not getting along with the coaches. Maybe it's a deal of he's not convinced that they're going to be contenders for the next 2 years, and this is just a march toward a rebuild. I don't know. That's just my guess, but it seems more personal than business. So that's a couple of reasons why Jalen Ramsey is not going to fetch you a big return.
Yeah, and by the way, I mentioned this, I think, on a previous podcast. There was a report out there. I'm not even going to mention the outlet, the person who threw it out there, but there was this trade scenario, and I'm only bringing it up because it was out there. Then it got aggregated, and if you Google it, you're going to see it. And the suggestion was Jalen Ramsey, the 13th overall pick, and a second-round pick next year to the Philadelphia Eagles for Devontae Smith and the 32nd overall pick. And back on earth, that's not happening. That's just not happening. No. And by the way, props to you for saying that Jalen Ramsey is not very agreeable. That was a beautiful way of putting it. Again, we're talking about a complete stud. The guy is like maybe a future Hall of Famer who's looking at being traded for the third time in 5 years. At some point, if that doesn't raise red flags, I don't know what does. So you got that, and you got the salary, and you mentioned not getting any younger. So I don't know what they're going to get for him. For the Dolphins to trade him, it makes a lot more sense to do it after June 1st than it does before June 1st. But that puts 2025 draft pick or draft picks out of the equation. And as I said, I feel like it's disconnected by Keen for those who caught the first 3 seconds of the song. Actually, I should have put a trivia contest. See if you can name that tune.
Yeah.
I put a story on Miami Dolphins on SI.com that I wrote about questions about Chris Greer's answers from his press conference.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of things where it's like, okay, you're taking what he says, and after that, it's like, and one of those was that he wasn't going to answer why Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins have agreed to explore trade possibilities. But one question that's not answered is why. The other question is why now, like a month after the Dolphins paid a $4 million roster bonus. So what changed between the Dolphins paying that roster bonus and now?
That's a good question. I again, with my personal, not business thing, I could see a scenario where Jalen Ramsey might have gone to them with a vote of no confidence for the future. They said, Jalen, just hang out till the first part of free agency. We're going to make some moves here. And Jalen sees, James Daniels, Larry Borum, Liam Eichenberg is back. I'm not convinced. Get me the F out of here. Possible. Again, just throwing out a scenario for timing. And I don't think there's any question why that story broke at 7 a.m. that day, hours before Greer was supposed to speak. That I think that Jalen Ramsey or his representatives wanted it out there at that time so that Chris Greer would be asked about it and would have to answer. That's my thinking. I don't think that timing was coincidental.
No, I mean, it's quite the coincidence. It's funny because there's some folks who thought like, oh, they're calling a press conference because of Ramsey. No, the press conference was scheduled beforehand.
Weeks ago. This was his annual pre-draft press conference. This was scheduled weeks ago. And I'm sure that Ramsey's representation or whoever leaked the story, I shouldn't say Ramsey's representation, but this was nothing that the Dolphins planned on bringing out publicly.
Should be mentioned his agent is David Mulugeta, who also represents Javon Holland, who also represents Christian Wilkins, cornerback A.J. Terrell of the Atlanta Falcons, whose head coach is Raheem Morris, who is a former defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, where Jalen Ramsey spent the second chapter of his NFL career. So, and another one is also Brandon Staley's his former defensive coordinator with the Rams when he had like maybe his best year ever. Now is a DC with the New Orleans Saints. And so is there a connection there? But I think the Saints are looking at kind of a rough year. The move comes after. Is it possible that along your lines of wanted to see what the Dolphins were going to do, that maybe he sees Calais Campbell leave and he's like, I don't want any part of that. So who knows? Maybe. And Jalen Ramsey, should be pointed out, hasn't mentioned any of this on social media. He's got 1.5 million followers on Instagram. So if you wanted to get the message out there, he easily could do it. He's got like 450,000 followers on X. Again, an easy place for him. If there was a message you wanted to get out there, nothing so far. Maybe it'll come out. Who knows? Bottom line is, even though Chris Greer said the door, it's not impossible they could be on the roster in 2025. It's kind of a point of no return when it becomes public that, again, the sides have mutually agreed to explore trade possibilities.
Yeah, there was a quote in there from Chris Greer that said something along the lines of, Jalen Ramsey was a great player for us. He's probably a future Hall of Famer. And he talked about Jalen in past tense a couple of times. I don't know if that was on purpose or if he was just speaking. But I kind of found that more curious than him omitting Tua on the list of team leaders. Speaking of Jalen Ramsey in the past tense, I thought was more significant.
Okay. I segue because that's where I was going next. You found that more interesting than that? I found that because if you recall the circumstances involved in that answer, which was about a question about whether there's enough leadership. He mentioned Zach Sealer first, Tyreek Hill, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but then Chris Greer is kind of like taking a little bit of time. It seems like he's going through the roster in his mind. Who else? Right. And then it's Jalen Waddle and Austin Jackson, the offensive lineman, love him, and Alec Ingold.
Right.
And you don't mention, by the way, that was another one of my top questions to the answers. You don't mention your franchise quarterback, the guy you gave a 4-year, $212 million extension to? Really?
Yeah, my interpretation, Chris Greer did not have a good day that day. It was a tough day to be up there saying stuff that you knew, the two starting safeties are on the roster. Huh? What? Really? Like Iffy and Ashton Davis are your two starting safeties, or are you counting Elijah Campbell? He had to say some things he didn't truly believe in. We think Tyreek has basically rehabilitated. So I think he was struggling at certain points of this press conference. And I think when he went down the road of naming names, he wasn't asked to name names. He did that on his own. It wasn't
correct.
Right. And so I think he just started down this bad road of, he named Zach Sealer, and then I think he's thinking in his head, well, I normally say Teron, I can't say him. I normally say Calais, I can't say him. So now who am I going to grab? And Jonnu doesn't occur to him. Jordan Brooks doesn't occur to him. It's Tyreek. And, I thought he was just really scrambling at that point. It was a poor answer. I think everybody considers Tua a team leader. I think Greer just choked. I mean, nobody would have Tyreek on that list, really. I mean, come on. I think he just simply choked, and that's it.
Okay, but see, to me is I would give him a pass for the starting safeties answer because you're pumping up the tires of the guys on your roster.
Okay.
Like you just shined. Maybe they shined him. I don't know. You just signed Iffy, Melifonwu, and Ashton Davis.
Right.
And you have Elijah Campbell and you have Patrick McMorris. And that's, and hey, attaboy, you guys, we think you guys can do it. So I see it. For the leader question, again, there was no, he could have said we have plenty of leadership. That's never been an issue on this team. It's won't be an issue anymore. But he felt the need to throw out some names. And for me to leave out your starting quarterback, the guy, again, who's the highest paid player on the team, it was just weird. It was
okay. So let's follow that through. Do you think that he does not consider Tua a team leader? Do you think he regrets giving out the money? What do you think is the significance of the omission?
I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know.
It is weird. I think he choked. Plain and simple.
Okay. It could happen. Is your gut feeling? Your gut feeling is still that going back to Tyreek that they're not trading him, correct?
Yeah. That's my gut feeling. I still don't know. Look. I sent a tweet that said this, that like, if I'm Steve Ross and I'm sitting in my office and Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel come in and say, all right, we have to trade Jalen Ramsey. We'd also like to trade Tyreek. I would look at them and say, wait, you want to trade the two best players on the team and you expect to come back in 2026? Get the heck out of my office right now. You're both fired. Like, you just made me sign. I'm not even joking. You made me sign these guys to extensions a year ago. Now one wants to leave and you want to get rid of the other one. Get out of my office. Don't ever come back. You're fired. I can't imagine them going in there and asking Steve Ross to trade Tyreek or Tua. Can't imagine it without Steve Ross calling them crazy.
Well, they can't trade Tua. Nobody's taking on that contract.
Well, I know, but just as a point of, these are the guys you signed last year. You made me spend hundreds of millions of dollars on contract extensions. And now one guy wants to get out. The other guy acts like a knucklehead once a month. and you're telling me we need to move away from these guys, and you expect to come back in 2026 in your same roles. Get out of my office. Don't ever come back.
Damn, remind me never to work for you. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah,
what is he supposed to say?
I mentioned Tua. Let me clarify again because this has been brought up on social media. Tua is not tradable because whoever inherits him, makes a trade for him, inherits that contract, which calls for a lot of guaranteed money this year, $40 million guaranteed salary next year for a guy who sustained his third concussion in 2 years, maybe his fourth, whatever you want to believe in the Buffalo game, in 2 years, and had a hip injury, which, despite the fact that Mike McDaniel keeps saying is unrelated to what happened to him at Alabama, and I have no reason to dispute that, but if that only adds to the concerns about a quarterback who's got massive durability questions. So it's really, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it's really, really difficult to envision a team being like, okay, let me know, sign me up for that financial commitment. And so it's not, anyway, and I got a mailbag coming out. No, that's come out, I'm sorry, on MiamiDolphinsInside.com, where I address that particular issue, as well as my take on Tua, because again, it's being misconstrued as me wanting to get rid of Tua. Well, what's your plan? What's your plan to replace him? Okay, and I explained that in full detail. My position, which I think I'd like to think that folks who've been watching the podcast would know what it is. Somehow there are some thick skulls out there who just can't get it through their head. Anyway, speaking of Tua, for those interested, he produced actually and will be part of a documentary on Fox Sports on Sunday at 2 p.m. I'm looking for the name of it exactly. It's on Polynesian football players, and it's called Culture of Winning Polynesian Football Pride. It's a very cool title. So it's 2 p.m. It premieres on Fox Sports on Sunday. If you recall, Fox Sports also had done a documentary on him called Tua, which had aired right before the start of his rookie season in 2020. I haven't done a mock draft yet. I've had site contributor and draft guru Dante Colonelli do the mock draft. He's done like a 7-round mock draft. Actually, he's done 3 of those. I will do one next week. It's going to be like my NFL first-round mock draft. And my Lord, Dolphins could go all over the place. I still think, to me, that the best move, considering that this is a team that just needs to rebuild a foundation of young, cheap talent, accumulate picks and accumulate more picks. I want to see a Jimmy Johnson type draft. In fact, today's the 18th, the 17th. Yesterday was the 28th anniversary of Jimmy Johnson making not 2, not 3, 4 trades at the top of the 1997 draft. Dolphins started off with 24, went to 27, went to the second round, moved up in the second round, and they wound up with a crap load of picks, including Sam Madison and Jason Taylor in 97, and just moved around the board all over the place. Was it? Yeah, it was 97. Or was it 97 or 99? It was 97. No, it was 99. I'm sorry. It was 1999.
Yeah.
Okay,
no.
So it was 1999. So it wasn't, I apologize, it wasn't the Sam Madison, Jason Taylor draft. It was the Jay Johnson, Rob Conrad draft.
Right.
It wasn't quite as productive. But the point is the Dolphins wound up with a crap load of picks, which is what they did, which is what they need this year. Because to me, again, they need quantity over quality. And when Chris Greer mentions maybe we'll move up for a player if we like him enough, you move up for a player, that dude better wind up in the Hall of Fame.
It's an interesting thing that, I consider the Dolphins moving down in this draft also. I don't know that Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel have enough time to move down. You need instant impact players, and the more rookies you count on, that kind of sets it up for 2026 as opposed to 2025. And look, we're talking defense here because offense, you've basically got your 10 starters in-house and you just need the rookie guard. So we're talking rookie cornerback, rookie defensive tackle, rookie cornerback number 2, perhaps rookie safety. Could you start 4 rookies? Like you can't do that and expect to make the playoffs. So I would think maybe at the most you start a rookie cornerback 1 or boundary cornerback, and a rookie defensive tackle. But boy, if you have to start 2 rookie corners, or if you have to start 4 rookies, you're not making the playoffs. And McDaniel and Greer aren't coming back. So they're in an interesting situation of, well, okay, I saw that face. Let's talk Greer and McDaniel coming back then, because here's my thing on that, is that I look at this offense again.
Yeah.
10 starters are in-house. Plus, you got your short yardage back in Alex Madison. You got your big wide receiver in NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akine. Your offense is pretty dang loaded. I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear anybody changing the it is loaded, Poop.
But okay, hold on, Perk. How
Okay.
loaded was it when Tua was in the lineup and they had their guys against Green Bay, for example, in the first 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, when the game basically was decided and it was done, the Green Bay was going to spank the Dolphins, and then the Dolphins actually put up some garbage numbers at the end of the game to make the score 30-17, when at one point it was 27-3.
This is part of my point. You don't lower the standard. The standard stays the same. The offense has underachieved. This is why these guys need to be fired. You don't change. You look at all these guys you have coming back. You don't look at this offense and go, well, they should only average 17 points per game. No, they should average like 25 points per game, 27 points per game. And if they don't, you fire them. You get people in there that can manage this talent correctly. You don't change the standard. I know that they didn't do a good job against a lot of these playoff teams, against Buffalo. And, they did a good job against the Rams, but against Green Bay, against Houston, you produced 12 points. And Tua has the 3 interceptions, and Tyreek gets the ball wrestled away from him by Derek Stingley Jr. You cannot have all of this stuff. You have better talent. You don't expect less from the talent. You expect the same amount, and you change the people who can get the talent to live up to the level that it should. Meaning Mike McDaniel, I'm sorry, you got to go. Like, you've accumulated all this talent, and you're telling me that it all depends on a rookie left guard or right guard, a guy who's never played in the NFL. This offense ought to be humming from day one. It shouldn't take a rookie guard who's never played to bring it all together. Like, you've got the pieces.
Okay, well, first of all, I just realized something. It's not 10 starters returning, because Teron Armstead's retired. So
no, 8 starters return, but okay. 10 starters are in house. That's what I mean.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, again, to me, I don't like making the black and white statement of playoffs, they're back, no playoffs, McDaniel and Greer are done. To me, it's going to depend on circumstances, and yes, I'm going to say it, and it may be taking the wimpy way out, such as life. Not the first time I'm going to do it. But it's like, again, how does it work? And this is where, because there's always this fallback of, well, the reason you didn't make the playoffs last year is because Tua missed 6 starts. No.
You missed the playoffs because you didn't have a good backup quarterback plan.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying here. Go ahead. You finish, though. I'm interrupting.
No, I don't know that I have another thing. I just don't think it's black and again. It's black and white. Depending on the result, it depends on how the season goes. I mean,
no way. It's result. This is result. We've done the process-oriented thing for 3 years. And, yeah, we just need to build the offensive line. We just need a little more speed. Screw all of that. Show me the baby, okay? Like, show me the baby. Like, you cannot go through another year with no playoff victory. You can't. That's going to be 4 years. All this spending, all these first-round picks. You cannot do that. I will not bring these guys back. If I think they should. Well, I said before Jalen Ramsey, the trade situation, that they should win 10 games. Now, 10 games does not get you in the playoffs. It does not get you a home playoff game. It does not get you a playoff victory. But based on what they had returning and who's on your coaching staff, 10 wins. 10 wins. Your schedule. You've got your toughest games at home. 10 wins. Again, 10 wins doesn't mean you're making the playoffs. You probably don't. You probably got to win 11 to make the playoffs. But they should win 10 games.
Perk, this looks like a 10-win roster right now.
I would. Well, without Jalen Ramsey, no. With Jalen Ramsey, yeah. But without Jalen Ramsey, no. But you built this roster. You dug this hole. You're in control of the Jalen Ramsey situation. You brought him here. Like, this is your guy. The fact that he wants to leave is on you. So don't go out there and win 8 games and wash your hands and say, well, we didn't know anything about Jalen. That's unpredictable. That's your guy. You brought him here. He probably wants to leave because of something in your game plan or your locker room or your draft plan or what. Well, I mean, I won't put it all on them, but because Jalen is kind of unpredictable. But the point is, you brought Jalen Ramsey in here, and the fact that he's not performing still goes on you. It's just like with Tyreek. Like, you brought him in here. If he does knucklehead things, you don't just wash your hands over it and go, oh, okay. You knew.
Yeah, but it's a little different because you've already had 3 years of Tyreek, and the first 2 he was a team MVP. So
he was still a knucklehead. He still did things off the field that were shaky, right? Starting with the Marina.
I don't, sure, but again, doesn't change the fact that he's been highly productive for the Dolphins and last year notwithstanding. So we should point out when we talk on Monday, this is the first day of the Dolphin offseason program.
Yes.
And this is where we remind everyone always the offseason program is voluntary, except for the 3-day mini camp in June. So if guys don't show up, a lot of guys have workout bonuses. Were you aware Tua has a $250,000 workout bonus in his contract?
I was not. I didn't scrutinize that over the cap.
You can chop off 50,000 of that, and I'll be happy to go work out. But must be nice. It's actually makes a very tiny piece of the contract. But there are a lot of guys who have workout bonuses. For those who have asked before, yes, I would expect Bradley Chubb to be out there. Jalen Phillips, I would not expect to be out there, or maybe out there physically, but not necessarily doing anything. The first couple of weeks is just basically classroom stuff and rehabbing stuff, as I recall. They don't get on the field really until a few weeks down the road. So, but technically the offseason program kicks off on Monday. And we will be back on Monday. We'll be back sooner than that if news breaks over the weekend. We shall see. And then next weekend actually is going to be the big one, which is Draft 2025. So for now, Chris Perkins, thank you very much as always.
Sure.
Catch his fine work, all joking aside, at sunsentinel.com. The Dolphins deep dive with Perk and friends, usually Furones and his Furones bonus. Catch my fine written content at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Along with that of my staff, the All Dolphins podcast. Obviously, you're here, so you know where it is. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And that's going to do it. In the meantime, have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching.